Hey folks, welcome back to China Unveiled, your go-to spot on YouTube for unpacking the hidden stories and big shifts coming out of the Middle Kingdom. We keep it real, straightforward, and free of the fluff, so you get the full picture without the headache. Today, we're diving into a fresh flare-up that's lighting up social media and rattling nerves across East Asia. It's all about China's famous wolf warriors. You know, those sharp-tongued diplomats and state-run mouthpieces who don't pull punches when it comes to defending Beijing's turf. This time around, they've zeroed in on Japan's brand new Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi, and boy are they coming out swinging with some language that's more farmyard than foreign policy. Let's set the scene properly because the sparks flew fast and furious. It kicked off right after Takaichi's bold parliamentary comments on November 7th. Within hours, China's consul general in Osaka, Xue Jian, lit the fuse on social media with a post that crossed every line of decorum. He declared there was no choice but to cut off that dirty neck or dirty head lunging at China without a second's pause, asking if everyone was ready for the chop. That inflammatory rant got deleted almost immediately, likely after cooler heads in Beijing realized it was a PR disaster, but not before it went viral and drew sharp rebukes from Tokyo. Japan even summoned China's ambassador on the 15th to demand an explanation. It's the kind of rogue diplomat outburst that shows how heated things can get when pride's on the line. From there, the state media machine revved up to amplify the chaos. A few days later, on the 12th, an account tied to China's broadcaster CCTV piled on via Weibo, questioning if Takaichi's head had been kicked by a donkey like some wayward beast. They warned that if she kept spewing shit without boundaries, she'd pay a steep price. Crude barnyard jabs that made headlines worldwide, courtesy of Reuters. It was as if the initial diplomat slip had given everyone permission to drop the gloves. The echo chamber exploded after that. Other officials urged Chinese tourists to rethink their cherry blossom trips and business deals in Tokyo. Students got stern warnings about hidden risks lurking in Japanese classrooms. And to top it off, a swarm of Coast Guard ships suddenly showed up, prowling the choppy waters around those islands both sides claim as their own. It's like a diplomatic tantrum turned into a full spectacle, complete with patrols and travel advisories that feel more like economic jabs than genuine safety alerts. Now, you might be wondering, what in the world could this trailblazing new leader have said to unleash this storm? It boils down to one honest, no-frills response during that parliamentary session back in Tokyo on the 7th. An opposition figure from the Constitutional Democratic Party, a guy named Katsuya Okada, lobbed her a tough one. Exactly what kinds of moves by China, whether on Taiwan itself or in the waters nearby, would cross the line into a survival-threatening situation for Japan as a whole. That's not just chit-chat, it's loaded with real stakes. Rewind to 2015 when Japan rolled out a set of landmark national security laws. These aren't your everyday rules, they greenlight Japan's self-defense forces to swing into action with serious military muscle if the country's core existence is on the line. Think blockades, invasions, or anything that could tip the scales toward national collapse. Takaichi didn't dodge or weave, she laid it out plain. If China kicks off an armed campaign to drag Taiwan back under its wing by force, that could absolutely fit the bill for one of those do-or-die scenarios. And in response, Japan could very well team up with the United States and its partners, lending support where it counts. Maybe logistics, intel, or even boots on the ground if things get that dire. To be fair, she's the first Japanese PM to drop it quite so directly without the usual diplomatic fog, but let's be clear, this isn't Japan flipping the script overnight, it's more like stating the obvious in a louder voice. A Chinese lunge at Taiwan wouldn't just be a neighborhood squabble. It'd slam Japan right in the gut. In the immediate chaos of war, shipping lanes would grind to a halt, starving Japan of the food imports and energy supplies it imports almost entirely. We're talking blackouts, empty shelves in supermarkets, and factories idling without fuel. And don't forget the human side. Tens of thousands of Japanese expats, students soaking up lectures in Taipei, tourists snapping photos at night markets, execs sealing deals over dim sum, would suddenly find themselves in a hot zone, scrambling for safety amid the missiles and mayhem. It's a nightmare scenario that's kept Tokyo's planners up at night for years, and Takaichi's words just put a spotlight on it. Of course, you'd expect some grumbling from Beijing after a statement like that. Territorial disputes are like family heirlooms in international relations. You've got to dust them off and wave them around regularly, or they fade into irrelevance. From the Chinese perspective, Taiwan isn't up for debate. It's a rogue province that's been straying too long, and the rest of us outsiders should butt out of how they bring it home. So, when Japan floats the idea of jumping into a scrap between the mainland and the island, China has to holler back. Silence would signal cracks in their narrative, like admitting the world might have a say after all. It's the same drill every time Washington ships over a batch of missiles or fighter jets to Taipei. Beijing files a formal complaint, stamps their foot, and reminds everyone they're playing for keeps with enforcement on the horizon someday. All that said, a standard-issue protest could have simmered down in a fortnight, filed away like yesterday's news. A stern note, a press briefing, and on to the next agenda item. But no, Beijing's chosen to fan the flames, morphing a minor dust-up into a headline-grabbing crisis. So, what's really driving this escalation? Peering into the opaque world of Chinese decision-making isn't easy. It's like trying to read tea leaves in a storm. But if I had to break it down, two big threads seem to be weaving through here, based on how the CCP has operated time and again. First off, there's that classic Communist Party habit of leaning into the bully pulpit. It's practically in their DNA. Whether they're clamping down on critics within China's borders, think activists or ethnic minorities, or pushing back against foreign leaders who step on their toes, the opening gambit is often a mix of intimidation, veiled threats, and outright pressure tactics. Bark loud enough, flash some muscle, and maybe the other side backs off without a fight. History's full of examples. Remember the fishing boat clashes in the South China Sea, where China sent in the big ships to scare off smaller nations, or the economic boycotts against Australia after they called for a COVID origins probe. It works sometimes. Opponents fold to avoid the hassle. And when it doesn't, well, Beijing's got a knack for pivoting to charm offensives, like trade deals or cultural exchanges, acting like the tough talk never happened. It's a high-stakes poker game, and they love raising the ante early. The second angle feels more tactical, aimed right at Takaichi's doorstep. She's not just any newbie, she's a rising star molded in the image of the late Shinzo Abe, that bold visionary who dragged Japan toward a more assertive role on the global stage. Abe's legacy? Beefing up alliances, tweaking the constitution for a stronger military, and staring down Beijing without blinking. Takaichi's cut from the same cloth, hawkish on security, unafraid to call out threats. And here's the kicker. Her path to power hit a snag when the more peace-loving Komeito Party, longtime coalition partners, decided they couldn't stomach her firebrand style and opted out. So, she shrewdly looped in a smaller, like-minded party to shore up her government. It's a leaner team, but one that's got Beijing sweating. Without those moderating voices, what's to stop her from accelerating Abe's playbook, pouring more cash into defense tech, drilling closer ties with Washington and Canberra, or even rethinking some sacred cows? Speaking of which, whispers from Kyoto News point to one eyebrow raiser on the table, scrapping Japan's decades-old taboo against hosting nuclear weapons on its soil. It's a policy born from the ashes of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, a solemn vow to stay nuke-free at home, while relying on the U.S. umbrella. But with China sprinting ahead on the world's most aggressive nuclear expansion, stockpiling warheads and missiles at a clip unseen since the Cold War, Tokyo's starting to whisper, maybe it's time to evolve. Beijing sees that as an existential red line. A nuclear-armed, or even nuclear-tolerant Japan next door. That's not just a neighbor with a fence, it's a fortress they can't ignore. By howling over her Taiwan remarks, China might be hoping to paint her as reckless, buying time before she locks in those bolder moves. And let's not overlook the home-front chess game here. This outburst could be a sly bid to rally Takaichi's skeptics inside Japan itself. The country's economy is a web of threads tied tight to China. Think auto giants like Toyota sourcing rare earths and components from Guangdong factories, or fashion brands eyeing those 1.4 billion consumers as their golden ticket. Flip through the Rolodex of her liberal Democratic Party, and you'll find heavyweights with deep pockets invested in that flow. CEOs on speed dial, lawmakers from districts where China-built plants employ thousands, or coastal towns thriving on waves of mainland tourists snapping up souvenirs. Tourism alone pumps billions into places like Kyoto and Osaka. A boycott could sting quick and hard. Plus, as Japan's trailblazing first woman in the PM's chair, she's already navigating glass ceilings and old boy doubts. A well-timed squeeze, delayed shipments, canceled deals, or viral boycott calls might just coax those party elders to lean in with a quiet word. Sanae's got spirit, but let's not rock the boat too hard, eh? It's a reminder of how interconnected and fragile these rivalries can be. One bold statement, and suddenly supply chains wobble, classrooms empty, and seas fill with patrol boats. Takaichi's openly named Margaret Thatcher as her North Star, that unyielding Iron Lady, who stared down unions, armies, and economic storms with a mix of steel and savvy. If anyone's got the chops to navigate this, it's someone channeling that vibe. Here's hoping she draws on Thatcher's playbook, stand firm on principles, but weave in the diplomacy to keep bridges from burning entirely. After all, East Asia's powder keg doesn't need more sparks. So, what's your take on this showdown? Is Japan wise to draw that line in the sand over Taiwan, or does it risk pulling everyone into the abyss? Could China's bluster backfire and push Tokyo even closer to its allies? Sound off in the comments. I read everyone and love sparking these chats. If this breakdown helped cut through the noise, smash that like button to spread the word. And hey, if you're not already subscribed to China Unveiled, what are you waiting for? Hit that button, ring the bell, and join our community for weekly deep dives into the forces reshaping China and beyond. We've got more coming on trade wars, tech battles, and everything in between. Thanks for tuning in. See you right back here next time.